KLTV sound check. KLTV sound check.
Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday meeting of the BOCC. We'll start with invocation today. We have Father's house in the house, so we'll turn it over.
All right. This from Psalm 4. Answer me when I call to you, O my righteous God. Give me relief from my distress. Be merciful to me and hear my prayer. How long, O men of Olympia? It's in there. Will you turn glory into shame? How long will you love delusions and seek false gods? Know that the Lord has set apart the godly for himself. The Lord will hear when I call to him. Father, we come to you now. We lay our lives and our day before you. Our agenda is laid before you. Father, you cause the rising and falling of kingdoms. Empires come and go. But Lord, your hand is upon it all, and you weave and you turn and you supply. For those that hear your voice, you duly and completely take care of. So we lay this plan before you today, what we have laid out, and ask that you would bless it and guide us with perfection in your Holy Spirit. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. If you want to join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Quick note before we get running down through here. We do have at 10 o'clock today, we have Board of Health. I just want to recognize, and I guess I'm dating myself because I've been around and been able to watch both of these, both in 1980 when the USA beat the Soviet Union in the Olympics, and both this year when the USA beat Canada for their 2 gold medals they've gotten in hockey. So that was a pretty outstanding deal for them. Okay. I'd seek a motion for approval of minutes from February 9th and 10th. You're it today.
Huh?
You're it today.
I'm it today. I move approval of the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes of February. Any corrections, comments? Let me get up my chat screen just in case somebody pops in. Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Before I head into consent agenda, we're going to move one item to the front, and that's item 9, resolutions. We have a class from Lincoln Elementary, 5th grade class from Lincoln Elementary, Miss Andrews' class, joining us today. They sent us a resolution, and I'm gonna read that to you, and then we'll call for a vote on it today.
I can hear you.
Whereas legend sightings and investigations suggest that bipedal ape-like creature known as Bigfoot, aka Sasquatch, may exist in the remote portions of Cowlitz County. And whereas Cowlitz County desires that its residents recognize the need to protect Bigfoot, if it exists, as the rareness of sightings indicate an extremely endangered creature. And whereas even if Bigfoot does not exist, the idea and folklore behind it represent the need for stewardship of the natural landscape in all its wildness, beauty, and mystery. And now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Cowlitz County, Washington, authorizes that Bigfoot is a protected creature in Cowlitz County, that all county residents recognize Cowlitz County as a refuge for Bigfoot, to provide both protection and security to any undiscovered life, and to appreciate the mystery of this world and the wild and undeveloped portions of Cowlitz County. Yesterday, when we were reviewing this, we had Joseph from the museum in, and he brought Bigfoot with him. And he relayed a story from 1924 that happened in our own backyard. It happened up in what they call Ape Canyon. It's up by Mount St. Helens. And it was interesting to hear Joseph tell it. It comes out of this book, which I'm in fear of death. I can't hand out because it's a collector item held over at the museum, and he wants this back. But you can go over there and read this story from 1924 about locals that were up mining and had an encounter with Bigfoot. It was an interesting story. So it's Cowlitz Historical Quarterly. It must have been something that was printed. This is like December 2017. And it tells the story of these three men going up to what they call Ape Canyon up by Mount St. Helens and doing that. Yeah, very, very interesting. So we have a resolution before us, and I just, we'll go through formally and seek a motion to approve that resolution.
I move approval of the resolution recognizing and protecting Bigfoot in Cowlitz County, Washington.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the resolution. Any comments? Ms. Andrews, do your class have any comments on this, or are they?
Does anyone have any comments from the class? So I just want to let you know, these guys have done a great job. They actually had to do research and write a paper first and decide if they thought Bigfoot was real. Then if we needed laws, we came together and we wrote the letter. And this is this would be the 6th county, if you all approve, that we've gotten to approve between the two 5th grade classes. So
Wow, outstanding.
we're taking the state over, one county at a time.
I love it. I love it. Keep us surprised of your process. Good work, you guys. Any other questions on that? Mr. Kaiser.
Green light. There you go.
Thank you, Chairman Rick, and so much for being an anonymous commenter this morning. I would like to remind everyone, back in 2014, when the 3rd District Commissioner's position was up for election, you might want to review that. Former Commissioner Joe Gardner had a picture of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call him, on his campaign signs. And the Daily News, in our interview with him, asked him what that was all about. And he kind of hesitated for a second. So like today, I jumped in and I said, well, since Joe was from Toutle and the eastern part of Cowlitz County borders on Skamania County, which is where Mount St. Helens is, you know, the line gets kind of blurry up there. So you don't really know if Bigfoot's in Cowlitz or Skamania County. So I see the 5th grade class there has taken upon themselves to decide, hey, maybe it is in Cowlitz County part of the time, as well as being in Skamania County. So it's a great idea that they wanted to do this, and you might want to review that for your own personal use. Thank you.
Any other? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Once again, Ms. Andrews, thank you. Thank you to the 5th grade class. We will sign this for you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yay,
Okay, we'll head down consent agenda. Call for hearing, Public Works. We have a call for public hearing to vacate a portion of Totiff Road currently in use by the Port of Kalama, scheduled for March 17, 2026 at 9:30. So that will happen here. Call for bids for the Camelot Large On-Site Septic System project scheduled for March 23, 2026 at 1:30. That will happen here. Agreements, contracts, bid awards to Core and Main LP, Ferguson Waterworks, James Pipe and Supply, and Watkins Tractor and Supply for the purchase of culvert pipe, beveled in sections, couplets, and other drainage system products that we use, you know, on a yearly basis for projects. So this is when all bidders. Final cost report for paving of existing gravel with light surface treatment on Primrose Road between milepost 0.05 and milepost 0.48 completed by the county forces is something that we have to post by statute. We had an estimate on that of about 36,000, I think, right in that area, and we finished the job for 26,645 and change. Local agency consulting agreement with Apex Companies LLC to perform general civil engineering services for various projects. It's a not to exceed 300,000. That's normal course of business for us. Contract execution with Wilcox and Flagel for all on-call fuel supply and delivery services for the next year. And we have, looks about like we're estimating about 758,000 on that contract. Event Center contract amendment with Fine Design Group to amend the scope of work. Their Fine is working with all the cities and the ports. Is there a chamber? I think Longview Chamber's in there. Somebody's in there. And on a marketing thing for the county, trying to coordinate efforts. And so that's just an extension of that work. It's up to 80,000. This is all funded out of what we call LTAC dollars, lodging tax dollars. From the auditor, personal service agreement engagement letter with Teresa Johnson, CPA, for assistance with implementation of current GASB standards, audit assistance, including with preparing financial statements. As a person we use when we have questions, when we do get audits, she helps with that. That's a renewal of a contract we've had in place. It's a not to exceed amount of 115,000. Board correspondence, couple letters from FERC to Pacific Power, one regarding SWIFT number 2, the other, both of them regarding SWIFT number 2. Retirement letter dated 2/24/26 to Dave Handy, thanking him for 33 years of service in the sheriff's office. Outstanding. Retirement letter dated 2/24/26 to Ryan Cruiser, thanking him for 30 years of service in the sheriff's office. Retirement letter dated 2/24/26 to Gail Reed, thanking her for 20 years of service in Health and Human Services Department. And retirement letter dated 2/24/26 to Jennifer Wielden, thanking her for 27 years of service in the Health and Human Services Department. Outstanding. We've had such a commitment from folks. Then the last item, we had vouchers this past week in the amount of $10,653,904.75. That's consent agenda. Anybody has any questions, comments on consent? Yeah.
Okay, again, I would remind you guys that I'm.
Is the mic on?
Okay, we want to remind you guys, as usual, I'm a pretty tightwad person and I can't help it, but I do know here about Public Works, and I'm going to bring it up again on the Camelot, the septic system. I know we're supposed to help them. Again, I have put thousands of dollars into the three wells that we have dug. And of course, the septic systems or perks. I believe it would get help, but I really think with the number of people that live in the Camelot, that they should shoulder partial payment on that, or at least some payment, and not have the county take care of the full thing. I don't think it's fair to the other residents of Cowlitz County to pay for their own septic and waters, and apparently they're not. So I'm just going to throw that out because, again, I think that people have responsibilities for their own upkeep too, and some people are just not doing it, and I don't want to pay for that. Again, I'm a tightwad.
You might have to help me a little bit, Susan, but I think there's a system we had to take over.
Yeah.
I believe.
But again, why can't they shoulder part of the payments on that?
Well, I think we send them a bill.
So good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. So this system is owned and operated by the county. The residents pay a monthly sewer bill. So they pay every month for the,
They do.
yes, so they pay
Okay.
service for the service. And so this is part of the operation and maintenance of the system and the service we provide to them.
Okay, so they are paying for,
Yes, they pay
Usage,
their
okay.
sewer bill just like anybody
okay.
else
that I can
connected to
handle.
public sewer.
That I
So-
can handle. I just can't handle us setting up a
Correct.
system and then giving it to them free and maintaining it as well.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Susan. Good question. Anything else? Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for approval of consent.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve consent. Last chance for questions, comments. See none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have no motion items today. Upcoming Tuesday, March 10th, looks like we have Council Longwood Chamber of Commerce in here at 10 a.m. Tuesday, March 24th, we have Department of Ecology in at 10 a.m. Other than that, we'll open it up. It's your meeting. If you have anything else you want to talk about.
Good morning, Commissioners. Just a reflection back to the January 27th meeting. Under board letters, we had two letters you announced from the United States Department of Interior, one regarding Cook property and the other a notice reservation proclamation request. And both of those are concerned with Native American acquiring properties. To all of us, it's mysterious when a letter like this comes out. I brought it up at that time, and I had suggested that that the property should be made visible with a letter or at least an attachment of where the properties are, so the people of the county understand and see what's being transferred to more non-tax paying properties. So I'm again requesting that you have our auditor make a map showing the people of Cowlitz County what properties were actually or are being transferred. So we understand our tax base continues to be dwindled down in a number of fashions, and this is just another one of those. Thank you.
Ron, I've spent some time looking at more information regarding that. And the way that I read the information tells me that these are state lands, which they're not taxable monies that we get taxes off of anyway. And supposedly, if we do lose taxable land, that there's some transfer that takes place to give us back land from the state to compensate for that lost land. That's the way I read it. I don't know if I'm interpreting that correctly.
That would be very good information for all of us as we look at you guys as being the caretakers of our public land here county-wise. And then, of course, all the other hands with DNR and federal and everything else. So I just like to have a little more visibility on the process. And if you're correct, let us know how that works. Thank you.
I'll try and find some more information on it.
Anything else? Okay, I figured it'd be kind of a quick meeting. We do have Board of Health at 10. So we will adjourn this one. We will start at Board of Health in about 40 minutes, it looks like. Okay, we will adjourn. Thank you.
Welcome to the meeting today. Kelly Lane is absent today due to a family obligation, so I will be taking over the running of the meeting today. So we'll call the meeting to order, and it is being recorded. Thank you, and welcome to all the guests. First up is old business to review the minutes. So I would ask if there are any corrections or additions to the minutes.
No. I move approval of the minutes.
Thank you. All in favor? All
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. New business. We have an HHS quarterly update.
Good morning. Carol Harrison, Health and Human Services. How are you doing today? Enjoying this damp weather? So yeah, we just put together some kind of numbers about last year and the types of activities that we did, and what you'll be able to see that here. There is a presentation. Gina's going to pull it up. That way the audience can see. Somehow. There we go. Woohoo. Cool. All right. I'll let you go to the next one. Okay. So this is just, I think we've done this before when we've presented a little bit kind of what we do at Health and Human Services. You see over there the teal color is health department side, and then the green is our human services side. And then the Board of Health really has authority over that teal side of it on the health side. And then we're just going to really kind of go through different pieces. We did this last year as well. So I also have last year's numbers available on there for you so you can see what it looked like. I say 9th Avenue building on that slide because we have staff in 2 different buildings. So this particular slide is staff over at our 9th Avenue campus, environmental health staff. They do, you can see the big one there, food establishment inspections. That is the bulk of their work. It's the really big piece, probably 80 to 90% of what they do. In 2025, there were 984 restaurant inspections. So food establishments, which is restaurants, bars, espresso stands, bakeries, that type of thing. Anything that's considered brick and mortar in a one stationary location. It's significantly more inspections than we did in 2024. We were down a staff member or two staff members the year before. So, and we were just training them up, getting them ready. So this year we were able to hit a lot more of those inspections as we needed to. Also, there are temporary food vendors. So these are generally speaking vendors that go to different events. They are not in a brick and mortar location. So it's the hot dog vendors and the curly fry vendors and the snow cone vendors, all those types of folks at the fairs and festivals around the county. So this is Squatch Fest. This is Go Forth. This is bazaars. This is those types of things. 300 different ones that we inspected in 2025. So that's almost one a day if you looked at it that way. So it's quite a bit. We have a lot of fairs and festivals in our county year round. Again, that's up from 2024. And I don't think that that has to do with staffing. We just really had, I think, that many more temporary food vendors and events happening in the community. Okay.
Are like the
Yeah.
ones like down in Oregon Way where they kind of sit in a lot and there's 3 or 4.
Well, Beach
women?
Street.
Beach Street, yeah.
Eats, yeah.
Is that considered in this category or is that fall?
They're not really considered temporary because they're at the same location.
Okay.
So they're operating out of that same location. They're kind of a unique scenario because it doesn't
So they-
necessarily fall in a typical brick and mortar, but it's not necessarily temporary either. So I believe those would be part of our annual
Mhm.
food establishment
So in
inspections.
this first one here,
Mhm.
probably.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what's the definition of temporary? Somebody with a trailer or a food truck?
So the way the permitting works, if you're going to operate at a single event, it could be a one-time event, or you could be, if it's an event like concerts at the lake where it's the same day, once a week, every week, for example, that would be an example of a temporary. You could also, we have a permit that allows you to do multiple events, but it's still limited. So you can do like up to 4 different types of events under the same permit. And so you could go and do, you could be at the fair, you could be at Squatch Fest, and then you could be at a different event. So you could do up to 4 events under one permit. So those would be temporary. If you're staying in the same location, operating for more than what our temporary permit allows, then we would look at how we could do a more annual permit for you.
So does somebody get inspected every time they get a temporary permit?
Yes.
Okay.
But not necessarily every location that they go to.
Right. So if we've inspected you once at one event, we may not inspect you the next time. We want to verify that you have set up and are operating under the standards of the permit. And it could just be the one time instead of every single time you set up to operate.
But it's possible you might do it 4 times under one permit.
No, the standard is once per permit. And
Okay.
so if we get you the one time when you first are up and operating, then we wouldn't likely, if you happen to, it might be that staff are at an event that you're already at. And if you've already been inspected, you already have your permit up, then we might just walk by your booth and do like a visual check, but we may not do a full inspection of your site because we
Okay.
already have, yeah.
And then here again, 9th Avenue building staff. We talked a little bit about rabies last year. Was that last year? Yeah, it was last year. We did test 14 animals for rabies in 2025. That's compared to only 10 in 2024. And that, I think, increase was due to that one positive test that we did have, which I think spiked a little bit of alertness and awareness in the public, which was fine. But we did test, and I believe out of all of those, there was only one positive test. So, and that was animals tested, not people, because you can't really test people unless they're deceased, because you test the brain. So. Also, same staff over at the 9th Avenue building. They do water recreation inspections. So that's public pools, spas, and then spray parks. Actually, also they do float tanks. So I think we did. I'm not sure if we still do, but we had one permitted float tank. I think they're meant for relaxation and reflection. So there was one of those here in town, and we inspect that as well. Again, it's only public pools, spas, and spray parks. So if you have a pool in your backyard, we're not going to come inspect your pool, but it might be if a hotel has a pool, an apartment building has a pool, or like Gaither Pool, YMCA, those types of things. So we did 33 of those in 2025 and then only 13 in 2024, and that was due to the staffing issue in 2024. All right, so this switches over to our environmental health staff that are here in this building. They're downstairs in our environmental health unit right across the hallway from building and planning. So those folks are under the health department. They're the ones that do our campground health inspections. So some of you were on the board when we redid our campground health local code and did work through that. So there was 24 inspections done in 2025 and we did 27 in 2024. And this, there's a note on there, does not include mobile home parks. So when we say a campground, we're talking about folks that are, they come in, they camp for the weekend or a week or whatever, a campground, not a mobile home park. So it's actually somewhere you're gonna generally come and go. Solid waste complaints. So we talked a little bit about that. I think it was a couple months ago or a month ago. I don't know, time flies. But at some point recently, we talked about solid waste complaints and how we work with the public to resolve those. We did see a market increase in 2025. There were 64 new complaints received. And then there was only 42 in 2024. So we have seen an increase in the number of complaints we've received. We kind of talked about it before, where when we receive those complaints, we go out and look to see if they're really justified or if it's just an aesthetic situation. We work with the property owners on how to clean that up. Sometimes it can take years, sometimes it can take months, but we work slowly with those folks to try to clean those up. And we are just looking for things that are a danger to health. You know, they cause, you know, rodents and vectors to be increased in the area, or they might, you know, pollute the soil, you know, leaking cars, things like that. So we're really looking for things that, again, are health related.
Just from, you know, sitting in the seat and receiving calls, it feels like there's more of this happening, of people just, call it what you want, but keeping stuff stored on their property and not keeping it what others would say aesthetically cleaned up. And I don't know the reason for that, but it seems to be more properties.
Yeah.
That
We're seeing
route,
that as well. Yeah. And we do have part of the cost of doing that work is covered by a grant that we get from the Department of Ecology. Yeah. So also in this building, the environmental health unit downstairs, they also deal with septic systems. So in 2025, they issued 356 permits for septic systems. That includes new systems as well as replacement tanks and systems. And that's pretty close to 2024, where there was 353. So it's about the same. We have seen that number, I think, climb over the years as development has increased, but definitely leveled off for a couple of years there. Also downstairs in the environmental health unit, actually, I'm going to take that back. These are mixed up. This is done by our staff over at the 9th Avenue building. We do inspect some public water systems. So we've talked about Group A and Group B, depending on the number of connections in a system. And we inspected 3 of those systems last year compared to 2 the year before. That was a staffing issue as well. But that is not done by the environmental health unit downstairs. So. And then lastly, on the environmental health side, here at the admin building, they do utility verifications. When there's building permits issued, the environmental health staff have to review the water source and the sewage disposal methods to make sure that there's potable water for houses being built. And septic disposal, make sure it's adequate for the size of the house or the number of people or the dwelling or whatever is going on to the property. Is that a good description? I'm sure did I miss anything with that? Yeah, so they're just really doing a review along with the building permit for building and planning.
I noticed that
There's a lot
number is
more.
up quite a bit, you know, 50%.
Yeah, I think that again is related to building and development increases in the county. Yeah, it's up a lot. All right, so we talked a little bit about this last year as well, vital records, which is birth and death certificates. In 2025, we processed 1,365 death records. So every death that occurs in the county comes through an electronic system from a medical certifier or funeral home. Gets through us. We have to review the data to make sure it's complete, make sure a cause of death there's a phrase called standalone. So you can't die from a broken leg. So if that's marked in the system, we have to kick it back to somebody and reiterate that you can't die from a broken leg. So there must have been some other cause. So about the same this year as last year. But there is a market increase in those birth and death certificates issued. And that's because of what we talked about last year with the, I just lost the name of it. Real ID, that federal requirement for real ID for flying. We did almost 3,000 more birth certificate issuance this past year. it was a lot. I haven't looked in the last month or two, but I think it started to slow down. It's still a little higher, I think, and I think it may be that way as folks get their real ID. But yeah, that was a big difference. And then lastly, we're going to talk about those notifiable conditions. So we've talked about this, I think, a little bit before. Healthcare providers, labs, et cetera, are required legally to notify us when they have suspected or confirmed cases of certain diseases. There's a big long poster of diseases that are required to be reported. There's a list for veterinarians, there's a list for physicians, and there's a list for laboratories. So those are all reported to us, and we don't always have to do any action on them. It just depends on what the disease or condition is. And then we're going to just show the case counts for 2024. We always lag a year behind because those numbers aren't necessarily finalized until probably the middle of the year. So we'll show you the comparison between the last 2 years. So the biggest difference, I think, between 2024 and 2023, we had no cases of pertussis, which is whooping cough, commonly known as, in 2023, but we did have 70 cases in 2024. So there was a lot going on in the community when it came to pertussis and AKA whooping cough. Other than that, the numbers aren't terribly significantly different. Those are just the top 10. We have a full list of all the conditions and what was reported on our website. But this is just those top 10. This is what our nurses really had to work with. And you'll notice tuberculosis isn't on there. It doesn't make the top 10, but it is probably a large portion of the work that they do. One tuberculosis case is a lot of work. So, and I think we talked a little bit about that a few months back, but so I think that's pretty much it. We just kind of wanted to give you in a nutshell the numbers from last year compared to the year before. Open to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Carol. I really appreciate having the year-to-year comparison. It's helpful so that we know if we've gone up, down, in all these, whether it's the reportable diseases or the other permits, et cetera, that you've done, the inspections. It's very, very helpful. Thank you. Good. Any questions, comments? Thank you for your work in putting this together.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Okay, next up, I asked Kelly before he was going to be absent if I could put antimicrobial stewardship on the agenda. So, and he said yes. So this is my turn now to do a little talking, and I have a PowerPoint presentation that we'll pull up. And while she's pulling this up, I'll give you a little bit of background, why this, why now. And the reason it came up for me, it's a cross-pollination deal. I serve on the St. John Medical Center Community Health Board, and I'm on their Quality Control Committee. And as part of that committee, we meet monthly and we review whatever they're looking at for that month. And one of those that came up was antimicrobial stewardship. And I thought, oh, yeah. And I asked the question to them, this is great. It focuses on prescribers, but what are we doing to educate the public, the consumers? And they went, great thought. So cross-pollination, I thought, well, gee, I have a great place to do a little education on what antimicrobial stewardship is. So I thought I would bring that forth. So next slide, please. First of all, little, background, what's an antimicrobial, so that we know what we're talking about. And you probably know all this, so excuse me if it's repeating. But basically, it's an umbrella term for anything that inhibits or kills microbes, germs, bugs, whatever you want to refer to those little critters. It includes a lot of drugs, such as antibiotics, which target bacteria, antifungals for fungal infections, antivirals, antiparasitics. Some drug examples that you've probably heard of: penicillin, common antibiotic; clotrimazole, common antifungal; acyclovir for viruses such as cold sores; quinine for malaria. Malaria is actually a parasite, and so many more. There are also some agents that kind of do both. They can be an antimicrobial and an antiparasitic agent. So you will see that it's not a nice, clean division. agents such as bleach, alcohol, Lysol, triclosan, that's what's found in all these antibacterial car seats, steering wheels, cutting boards, et cetera. And hydrogen peroxide are also antimicrobials. They are not the focus of antimicrobial stewardship. This is really about the drugs that we use. Next, please. So a little definition and the goal of antimicrobial stewardship, which you will see referred to as AMS. So it refers to coordinated efforts to promote the optimal use of antimicrobial agents, basically to preserve their effectiveness. The primary focus is on antibiotic drugs. The goal, of course, is to decrease antibiotic overuse and lessen the antimicrobial resistance issues. Antimicrobial resistance is a worldwide problem. The main target is prescribers, and it's basically through education about appropriate prescribing and use of antimicrobials based on the most recent evidence. And hospitals monitor and measure inpatient infections and antibiotic use as part of their quality measures. So it's part of their accreditation and their standards to look at this. Next, please. So bug background, okay, just real brief. Antimicrobial resistance is not new. It's a natural phenomenon. Basically, I like to say it as we fight them, they fight us. So it occurs when the microorganisms no longer respond to our weapons or antibiotics to which they were previously susceptible. Microbes are clever. They adapt to our weapons and hence resist them. The misuse and excessive use of antimicrobials in humans and animals are the main drivers in the development of drug-resistant pathogens, which is a disease-causing microorganism. It results in acceleration of the natural process. Next up. So a little history, very brief. In the 40s, that's when we got penicillin. In the 60s, the 80s, we had increasing antibiotic resistance, and that prompted concerns about overuse and misuse of antibiotics. In the 1990s, that's when formal AMS programs began in hospitals. In 2007, the CDC released guidelines for antibiotic use, emphasizing the importance of monitoring and education. And then in 2015, World Health Organization launched the Global Action Plan on Antimicrobial Resistance. So basically, this is when it went worldwide. Say, hey, we have to all work together on this problem. And currently, ongoing research focuses on strategies and technologies to enhance the stewardship efforts and combat resistance. So, key points. Oh, I just wanted to show you that they do have a priority pathogens list. This is the most current list. It was from May 2024, and they go divided into critical, high priority, and medium priority. And this list drives research and policy, and it provides a guide for developing new treatments to combat the antimicrobial resistance. So these are the ones that we know are causing problems, and they prioritize it. Next, please. So this is just some antibiotic resistant infections that you may have heard of or may not have heard of. Clostridium difficile, or we call it C. diff. More common bacterial infection of the colon happens when we use antibiotics. They kill off our good guys and our bad guys. And then the bad guys, the C. diff, overgrow and cause this horrible bacterial infection, and it's often hard to treat, getting harder and harder to treat. So just mention that because it ties along with antibiotic use. And then we've probably all heard of MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staph aureus causes skin and organ infections. Strep, we know commonly is strep throat, but there's lots of different strep bacteria. They cause respiratory infections, fever, and they can infect skin and wounds. There's drug-resistant tuberculosis, okay, which easily spread, primarily lung, can involve organs. Salmonella, Shigella, intestinal illnesses, more common in developing areas, not as common where we have good water, good sanitation, although can still occur, can be foodborne, et cetera. Then there's three others that you may or may not ever heard of. Enterobacter, that's a natural bacteria found in soil and water in our GI tract, but if it gets where it doesn't belong, it can cause infections. Klebsiella pneumonia, you might have heard one say, oh, they have Klebsiella, okay? Fun to say. It causes a nasty pneumonia. It likes water, so it can also cause urinary tract infections, blood infections, and wound infections. Pseudomonas is another one that likes water, found in soil, water naturally, and it can also cause pneumonia, bloodstream infections, UTIs. The last three are a large focus of in-hospital monitoring because they're not as common that we get them out in the community. They are unfortunately more likely that you're going to get them if you're hospitalized. And so that's why they really watch those ones. Next, please. So key points. So remember that microbial stewardship focuses on the prescribers. So I put that list there just so that you can know what prescribers are being educated about. But mostly my target is for us as patients. So don't share, save, take less than prescribed, or stop these medications early. They all contribute to antimicrobial resistance. It goes back to they're smart and we attack them, they attack us. So, or they attack our weapons. If we introduce them to our weapons and we don't kill them off completely, they start mutating and growing and spreading their mutations, and that leads to antimicrobial resistance. So if you ever wonder, well, why do I have to take this antibiotic for 7 days and not just 2 days? I feel better after 2 days. That's why, because the bugs are less in your system, so your symptoms are better, but the bugs are still there, getting smart and mutating and going to go be more resistant if we don't kill them off all the way. It's also why we don't share our antibiotics and say, oh, here, I've got this worked for me, it'll work for you. There are some infections that we know generally what the cause of them is bacterially, but it's not always the same. What causes it for me might not cause it for you. So that's why we really want to match the drug and the bug. And that's part of what we educate prescribers about. So talk to your healthcare provider about your symptoms and your concerns. Okay? They need to know from you what your symptoms are, how bad they are, how long they've persisted, because it's going to affect what they choose to treat you with. Tell your provider if the medication's not helping and follow their advice. If prescribed an antibiotic, don't be afraid to ask, what is the purpose? What are the side effects? How do I correctly take this drug and what are we treating? And that's truly be an informed consumer. And just a reminder, antibiotics don't cure the flu, the common cold, or COVID. Now, we do have some antivirals that can help, but they don't cure it. Okay. So my final tips and takeaways. Next slide, please. Antimicrobials are a great weapon against infection when used correctly. Antibiotics should be prescribed and taken with care. Right person, right reason, right amount of time, right dose, right route. Nurses know this is the 5 rights. We all have a role in reducing antimicrobial resistance and using them effectively. And I'm going to put a plug there in for shared clinical decision making is important. Talk with your healthcare providers, ask questions, and advocate for your health. Nobody knows your body as well as you do. So thank you for listening, and I'm open to questions. Okay, hearing none, we will move on. So next on the agenda is time for public comment. So we open the mic as needed for anybody that would like to make any comments. Hearing none, we will then conclude the meeting. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, meeting adjourned.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.